as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
Joe Biden was giving a commencement address at Howard University and possibly said the worst thing that a president has ever said. And by that, I mean, a lot of things are encompassed when I talk about the worst, most cynical, divisive, untrue factually. Holy cow. I'm going to play you the clip, but this clip has been making the rounds. You've probably seen it on a bunch of different news shows over the weekend. But I also want to read several lines from his speech that a lot of people haven't seen yet, because he goes even further to double down on the thing that he said is apparently not being as divisive as it actually was. I want you to watch this, and then I want to read some of the other quotes that aren't getting nearly as much attention on the other side. Check it out.
To stand up against the poison of white supremacy, as I did my inaugural address, to single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy. And I'm not saying this because I'm at a black HBCU. I say it wherever I go.
I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, it actually is because he was at a black HBCU. Okay, so first things first, let's just break that down really quick. Joe Biden says that white supremacy is the most dangerous terrorist thing in this country. I have never met a white supremacist in the sense of somebody actually who believes that sort of thing. The problem is, from a lefty standpoint, is that these people will call anything white supremacy. If you turn your homework in on time, that's white supremacy. So putting those pieces together doesn't really bode well for the president. If turning your homework in on time, or if being on time to a meeting is white supremacy, as many lefties have claimed, I'm not being hyperbolic here, then what the president is saying is that the biggest terrorist threat is being on time, which is white supremacy, among many other things that have been claimed to be white supremacy. The problem is that so many people on the president's side of things have said, this is white supremacy, this is white supremacy. Let me read some more of what he said. Let's be clear. There are those who don't see you, who don't want this future, Biden said. I'm sorry, is that... am I missing a major Republican talking point? Is there any Republican, mainstream or otherwise, saying that we don't want black kids to go to college? Is the president making that claim? And then again, to say that to a bunch of young, impressionable people, something that is not happening, and saying that there are people out there who don't want this to happen. I mean, I guess in theory, somewhere, somebody with no voice and no audience might theoretically possibly be saying that, but if you have to issue that many caveats, I feel like your point shouldn't be made then. He goes on to say, there are those who demonize and pit people against one another. That is rich. Let me go on. There are those who would do anything and everything, no matter how desperate or immoral, to hold on to power. Can the man hear himself talk? And again, I don't want to be this type of person that says everything is the worst or the best or this or that hyperbolic speech of, especially regarding the politics. But after having just said one of the most divisive things in political culture in a long time, maybe ever, he then says there are some people that will say anything to hold on to power, which is what he just did while being in a position, re-election coming up, to want to try to hold on to power. Again, policy aside, politics aside, how I think about the president or what I think about his ideas, all of that aside, that's just idiotic. Because I think, but there's a bunch of people on the lefty side of the aisle. Let me see. I'm reading in this Politico statement. Despite some of the audience applause, Biden's message was not entirely well received. This is in Politico, by the way. They go on to say some of the people that have criticized him for it. The bottom line is he objectively said something insanely divisive and just a flat-out freaking lie. There are some people who don't see you and don't want to see this future. Nobody thinks that. And then to go on and say that there are people out there that are trying to pit one another against each other. Okay, dude, that that's like going to a dinner outing with friends, and then you go over to one person and say, "Hey, you go over to a female and say, "Hey, just so you know, Rebecca says that you are absurdly fat and she hates you." Guys, I'm just telling you that. I'm telling you that right now. That's what Rebecca said. She said that. And Rebecca didn't say that, by the way. But I told you, well, Rebecca said that you're absurdly fat, you're ugly, and she hates you. And also, just so you know, there are people out there saying incredibly divisive things in order to hold on to the power of the group at this dinner table. I mean, dude, again, policy and politics aside, that's just stupid. And the other thing, and we talked about this last week, the other thing is somebody wrote this speech for him. He's not speaking off the cuff here because he never speaks off the cuff because he can't because his brain is addled. Somebody wrote this out and thought that it would be a smart, wise thing for the President of the United States to say.